protecting Main Street from Wall Street. It's time for Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allen.
You have to have a plan where you know if the market's going to go up, what happens next. And you also have to have a plan where if it doesn't go the way you think, you know what you're going to do.
It's time to put you back in control of your money.
I'm not trying to predict the weather, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? It's predicting the stock market. I'm trying to build a better boat.
This is Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allen.
Welcome to the Money Unleashed podcast with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allen. We are the vice presidents of Hoffman Financial Group. We've got new episodes for you on Monday and Friday. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Kyle, we just got done celebrating July 4th. It's one of my favorite holidays of all time. It represents the freedom of our country, all the sacrifices everyone has made in order to have the freedoms that we have to do all the things we do in this country. And now I want to talk about financial freedom. I would argue every single client that comes in here wants this financial freedom. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, so we see this article from MoneyFit. It defines financial freedom as having enough income, savings, and investments to live the life you desire. And then I found something from the Wall Street Journal. I want to kind of read this to you. So this is a couple that lives out in California, right? They're in the top 10%. So I guess the first question is, do you know how much money you have to make each year to be in the top 10%?
Top 10%?
Put him on the spot.
I'd say over $500,000 a year.
So it's interesting. It's $250,000, right? So
if
somebody makes more than $250,000 a year, they're in the top 10% of earners, right? So we've got a couple here, Chiffon and Jimmy Myers. They're saying, hey, we buy organic fruits and vegetables. We love to eat healthy. We live out in California. Together, we're making $350,000 a year. In the past, when we lived in other states, we owned our home, but they're actually currently renting. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're literally saying this couple who's in the top 10%, right? So 90% of Americans do not make what this couple makes. They're renting their home. They look at the cost of owning the home. They look at the cost of taking care of their 3 kids, and they're saying, hey, I don't feel financially free.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this dichotomy between the math and the feeling, right? So if you say, okay, how do I get to financial freedom? Well, some people might say, well, if you made $250,000, like I come from a really small town. My father never made $100,000.
Right.
So when I was coming up as a kid and I thought about the world, I didn't even think that somebody could make $250,000. I'll admit this on the air. I remember there was this kid in college. He was from Atlanta, and we now live in Atlanta. And he said, if I don't make $300,000 a year, I don't consider myself doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I remember as I was coming up, I was a young stockbroker. I thought, man, if I could get to $100,000, that'd be amazing. And then you think about how time and inflation affect those thoughts, because now there's tons of conversations about how $100,000 isn't even enough.
Right, to live in Atlanta.
Right. So we're saying $100,000 isn't enough. We're saying $250,000 isn't enough for this family out in California. Now, I think financial freedom is the difference between what you need and what you have. So the problem with this context is it depends on where you live.
Yep.
And it depends on your lifestyle, right? So some people, when they come in and we're building retirement plans for them, they're saying, I need $70,000 to pay the bills, and I need $70,000 to go out and do the things I want to do, like get the bottle of wine, go on the trip to Europe. And so I need $140,000 net of taxes. Other people are coming in saying, no, I only need $100,000. And then some people are coming in saying, I need $200,000. So it's this relationship between what it is that you would need to pay the bills and have fun and what you actually have. So I'll flip it back in and say, okay, how do we answer that question as a financial advisor? Well, the first thing we've got to do, and we've got a couple of bullet points here from the MoneyFit article, but I'll tackle the first one, and then I'll pass it back to Eric. It says we've got to set clear financial goals, right? So how does a financial advisor help you do that? Well, we walk through all the different things that exist, right? One of the financial goals might be to grow the portfolio better. One of the financial goals might be to protect the portfolio better. And of course, the main financial goal in retirement is to provide higher levels of income. I had a lady come in yesterday. She lives over in Gwinnett, so I was meeting her in the Duluth office. And she said, I want to retire next April. Can I retire next April? And so we looked at the money that she had invested, and we found that its distribution, its dividend, its yield, what it pays her, was about 2%. So I said, okay, you've got $1 million here. If you just took the distribution from your current design, you would have $20,000 from that. Her husband was getting $2,000 a month from his Social Security. She was getting $2,000 from her, so she's got $4,000 there. So roughly $48,000 is coming from Social Security. So if you take the $48,000 plus the $20,000, she's got $68,000. I said, how would you feel? Would you feel financially free if you had $68,000 gross to play with? And she said, no, I think I need a little more than that, right? So what we were able to design for her, and you talk about this often, is in that scenario, we set that her financial goal was to obtain more income.
Right.
Right. So we didn't want just a 2% distribution from the portfolio. We were able to build a 5% distribution from the portfolio. So instead of getting $68,000 growth, we were at about $98,000 gross. So that extra $30,000 in income is giving her the financial freedom to enjoy, to live, and to not think so much about the problem.
Got it. So first step, clear financial goals. Well, how do we get one of those? So here's a bullet point that I see a lot of people don't even have. It's mastering budgeting and debt. So what I'll tell you about debt, we're going to attack debt first. Managing your debt is just as important as managing your wealth, right? So making sure that we're paying off our credit cards on a monthly basis, making sure we're not holding a balance, making sure we're not making silly decisions to buy very large purchases on credit, like making sure that we're paying our things off once, not 5 times. That's a big one. And then the bigger one that I see, and I see this every single day, and I ask people, what do you currently spend every month? And everyone says the same thing. Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this question. I probably should have had this done, or I'll figure this out. And I'm like, look, shoot high. Like, pick a number and shoot much higher than you think it could possibly be. Because one of the biggest problems I see as human beings is that, A, we don't want to think about a budget. We want to be wealthy. We want to spend. We want financial freedom. We want to think about it. Well, guess what? You have to, right? You have to understand what your inflows and your outflows are in order to figure out what you need. So, for instance, like what you're saying with that lady, you're like, hey, does $68,000 sound good to you? No, $93,000 sounds a lot better. Okay. So you want to make sure you have a savings account included into your income plan because, retirement's about income. But unless you understand what your outflows are every month, then you can't get that spread or you can't get that extra savings or extra spending that you're going to need. So I would say that would be bullet point number 2. Kyle, what's another bullet point we can get for people to get financial freedom?
So the next bullet point that we see here is invest early and invest consistently. So I think early's tough. I don't want to give people a really hard time about that. I think you invest as soon as you can.
Sure.
I often say to my clients, because they say, how do I get my kids or my grandkids to invest? I say, look, I've taken the idea from the health community. I heard this a long time ago, which was one day in the gym is better than none.
Yep.
And one bad day in the gym is better than none. So just go, put your shoes on and go. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to investing, I don't want to criticize too hard on the idea of early. Just give it what you got. So if you're young and you only have, a couple $1,000s a year that you can put into your retirement, just get it moving. Just get that steps. You're going to get excited over time because you're going to see the compound effect of the choices. You're also going to learn a lot about yourself. So just get it moving as soon as you can. But I think consistency is the key, right? We see people often who over time in retirement accounts have stayed consistent, stayed moving. They didn't sell. They didn't freak out. I actually had an amazing story one time. This lady came in and she said, I'm a hippie, so I don't really think much about money. I go, okay, that's okay. And she goes, the only reason I'm in here is because my father was not a hippie. He was a capitalist like you, and he owned a business. And so when I got out of school in the 60s, I decided I was going to move to Paris and I was just going to float around the world. Well, of course, I ran out of money, and Dad said, I'm not paying for this. And so I came home. She started working for her dad's business, and every time he gave her a paycheck, he took a piece out and he put it into a retirement account, right? So the blessing of the 401ks, the blessing of the retirement accounts is someone else is consistently saving for us.
Yes.
Right? And then in her case, she said, hey, we're going to open this thing. I've never seen what's in it.
Wow.
Yeah, she had never looked at the account. So I sat there with her, and for the first time ever, we looked at it. She had $1.4 million. It was an amazing
Thanks,
moment.
Dad.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks,
right?
Dad.
So you've got to get consistent. I think one of the best ways to do this is with retirement accounts. Now, one of the other things I sort of talk to people about a lot of times is you need to understand the tax structure. So I don't want to be clear. It's not always that we want to put it straight into the tax deferred account. Sometimes people want to put that into a Roth account. And I ultimately, a lot of times we'll sit down with clients and say, I want you to contribute to a non-qualified, a brokerage account.
Yes.
Because you want some tax balancing what you're doing. But once again, you've got to get this moving. So I don't want to be super critical on the idea of early, but I want to be critical on the idea of consistency. Consistency is key. Get that money moving. Get it in the market. Do not wait.
That's right. It's called dollar cost averaging. When you're consistently every week or two putting money into a 401k or a brokerage account or saving up for a Roth, that's referred to as dollar cost averaging. You're putting it into periodically every couple weeks, and you're putting the same amount in no matter up or down in the market. And, for your hippie client, she got $1.4 million because of that, right? So, maybe she can, transition to a capitalist too. Maybe.
And by the way, she told me that she never made more than about $75,000.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, so that's a great example.
It's an amazing opportunity over time to build in this system. You've got to stay consistent. You got to stay moving.
I had a farmer couple come in. This guy was making $100,000 a year, and they've got their own farm, and they had $2.6 million. If you do the proper things, and it leads up to the next bullet point, live below your means, or at least mindfully.
Oh, I don't know how you feel about this, but when I read that, I was like, no.
Yeah, well, a lot of people say that. No, I'm not doing that. And now my engineers out there, they're great at tightening the belt.
Well, hold on. Do your clients tell you, because I think everyone comes in here bragging about how they're living below their means. And one of my favorite things to do is to encourage people to spend more money.
So, yeah, that's a good point. So I had a client come in the other day. I hear this quite a bit, and we're very frugal. And I ask them, hey, how much money do you spend a month? And they're like, $7,000 a month. I'm like, okay. And they've got like $2.5 million. So that's gobs of money. I mean, we can create massive amounts of income if they're only spending $7,000. Oftentimes, as an advisor, I'm encouraging people to spend more money in retirement.
Totally.
Now, here's the hard part, right? Because we're all human beings. That's not the hard part, but we get in ruts, right? And here's the paradox of money as well, too. Like when you're ready to retire, normally you have all the things that you want. And then you have all this money and you're like, well, I don't want a new watch. I got to get a new car in a couple of years, but that's not a big deal to me. And then usually you're going to spend it on experiences. But when it involves living within your means, a lot of people come in, they tell me how frugal they are, which I applaud them, right? That's what got their portfolio to the size it's at. However, when you have the money and you have the ability to create the income and it does not draw your accounts down, and in fact, if you've got a plan very similar to the ones we put together, where you actually take your income and grow your retirement accounts, I'm going to encourage you to sit in front of the plane. I'm going to encourage you to sit in a 5-star hotel with a spa and a bar, and I'm going to encourage you to get the vehicle you never had.
We talk about it all the time, and it's actually going to come up in the next segment when we talk about Generation X. There's so much money that's going to be transferred to the next generations, Generation X and the millennial generation. And so when I sit down with my clients, a lot of them, we'll get into the numbers heavily, but about 2/3 of the clients that we're going to be working with are going to be in the baby boomer generation. And they're saying, hey, I'm going to live below my means. And I'm just encouraging them to take a second and think about it from a different angle. I want to give you some extra thoughts because there's this thought that the only way to survive is to not spend your money. But as Eric just said, if we can maintain the principal and send you a bigger check, then that's a lot more fun. That's a lot more exciting. So the exciting news is for a lot of people listening, you can hold on to what you have. You can maintain your principal. You can protect that principal. You can not draw that down and send a bigger check. And then sometimes with clients, you can not only maintain that principal, but grow it.
That's right, Kyle. And if you want to attain this financial freedom, it takes planning and it takes discipline. You need to have a proper plan put in place. We talk about the 5 Ps all the time. Proper planning prevents poor performance. If you're looking for this financial freedom, and we all are, let's get the conversation started and let's get one of these plans put together for you. Give us a call. Let's put this together. 404-640-5511. That's 404-640-5511, or you can find us online at unleashyourmoney.com.
Eric Johnson and Kyle Allen are investment advisor representatives of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor and affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and Hoffman Financial Group are affiliated under common ownership. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosures of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, page 4, for additional information. The Hoffman Financial Group and WSB are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the field of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Any client experiences discussed during the show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone. Index or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A Item 4, for additional information. Hoffman Financial Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Insurance licensed in Georgia, number 163546.